We are planning for a full 5 days. We are planning on lunches, and we are trying to maintain 3 feet to the greatest extent possible. In some cases, that will not be possible. We continue our core committee meetings. We've had sometimes 2 a week. We continue our grade band committee meetings, and we've had spring into summer events. We're continuing these events. We're continuing to put ourselves out there to speak to people. I've called people personally. I know Mr. Mahmood has, Mr. Trujillo has. I have a focus group going on tomorrow, so we continue these community events. Let's remember that schools do have a mixed population of vaccinated and unvaccinated people. We have, for whatever reason, students, staff members who maybe can't be vaccinated or are ineligible to be vaccinated, but we do have a mix of people. Our premise is that those who attend school are well and are following the guidelines and criteria set forth. You may disagree, you may agree. Our role is to ensure that the guidelines set forth by the governor, the New Jersey Department of Education, et cetera, are followed. Our premise is that everyone will cooperate and comply with contact tracing as necessary and appropriate. If a nurse or Department of Health officer reaches out and you choose not to answer the phone, that's not helping anybody. Decision-making regarding COVID-19 prevention strategies are based upon protecting those who are not or cannot be fully vaccinated. Our priority is opening schools and keeping them open. That is our priority. That may mean that we have to shut down classes, have to shut down programs, have to shut down a school, have to shut down a sport. That's what we'll do. We will follow, Hillsborough Township Public Schools will follow any Governor of New Jersey executive orders, New Jersey state agency mandates, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention guidance, New Jersey statute or administrative code requiring compliance by the school district on providing or requiring vaccinations to educators, other staff, or students. We will continue to consult with our local health official and school physician on all matters pertaining to vaccination, including sharing information on how to obtain vaccines and possibly hosting opportunities if necessary. With the construction, it's been a little difficult for us to do that. There are school, as you know, do have a mask mandate, but there are also exceptions to that mandate as listed. The mask mandate does apply to public, private, and parochial preschools, elementary, and secondary schools with some limited exceptions as listed. And it is likely that outdoor masks may be recommended or required at some point. However, we're not willing to put that out there at this time. We're waiting to see. That could happen right before school starts. It could happen once school starts. We just don't know. But the exemptions are outlined. So this changed a little bit from the last presentation. And as we just said, masks are required for everyone, whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated, at all times while indoors. We suspect that the guidelines will be subject to change. If we find ourselves in a sustained period of low, then we might relax the mask mandates for vaccinated individuals. If we find that we're remaining in moderate or high for an extended period of time, then we might have to implement more restrictions. But we do have a layered mitigation approach that we've been utilizing since we went out. Masking is required at all times when we're in moderate or higher. That's not to say that if we're in low for a week, we're going to relax the mandate. We'll take a look, we'll see if we can sustain this, not we, Hillsborough, just the state, our region, and if, as the case may be, Hillsborough is doing pretty well, then we'll look at that as well. If you're vaccinated and you are exposed, there is no quarantine required. You may continue to participate in extracurricular and athletic activities. If you're unvaccinated and you're exposed, quarantine is required, and you may not participate, or your children may not participate in extracurricular athletic activities. We talked about eliminating or relaxing the requirement to complete the daily COVID screening form. As long as we are in moderate or higher, we will continue moving forward with that. That is a recommendation that we will keep in place. And that goes for students and staff members. The CDC, Dr. Mandelbaum, Somerset County and local departments of health continue to speak with us. We have almost weekly meetings with Somerset County superintendents, where in the last several meetings, the Somerset County and local departments of health have been a part of that call. And Dr. Mandelbaum is always available for texting or conversations as questions come up. We can treat extracurricular activities and athletics differently, meaning that if there's actually a recommendation out there by our health officers to mandate vaccinations for students to be permitted to participate in athletics and extracurricular activities. We're not making that recommendation at this time, although I have to tell you, that might be taken out of our hands, just as the masking was taken out of our hands, but we are not recommending that at this time. We haven't seen any district do that quite yet, so we're just keeping an eye on that. Breakthrough cases due to athletics and extracurricular activities will shut down programs. We've already had to shut down a couple programs for a couple of days while we were doing contact tracing. We will shut down those programs. And any generalized breakthrough cases will obviously close classrooms, schools for contact tracing for any period of time. We just don't know. So we just have to all be prepared to shift on a dime if necessary. There are many, many challenges we are all facing. Our staff, our building administrators, our district administrators, and our teachers are really doing a fabulous job in trying to work it through. Are we going to have everything worked through? We'd like to believe we are, but something might come up that we're going to have to deal with and work through, and we will do that. Lunch is one of the biggest challenges. If there was a mandate to maintain 6 feet at lunch, we wouldn't be able to come back to school full time. It would be impossible for us to do that. That is not the case. However, that is going to be a time where we're going to be extra vigilant because students will not be 6 feet apart without masks. So that's a time that the principals and the building administrators are working with our food services people and our maintenance and custodial crews to ensure that the cleaning takes place as soon as possible, which is actually quite quickly, and that in lunches there are assigned seats, that we have sign-in sheets. Might look a little bit different at each school because each school is configured differently and the number of students in lunches is configured differently, but these things are important because of contact tracing reasons. Any transportation protocols, all school buses are considered school property in terms of the need for prevention strategies. So social distancing will be maintained to the greatest extent possible. It depends. We may have some routes that we can maintain 3 feet. We may have many that do not. We suspect that we'll have parents drop off their children at the beginning of the school year anyway, so we'll see how that goes. Just like last year, students will load from the back to the front so that students, with first students sitting in the rear, so I'm getting on the bus first, I'm gonna go right to the back, and then the people who are sitting in the front of the bus will get off that way. Masks must be worn by all students, drivers, and aides on buses regardless of vaccination status as per the CDC order. Again, accommodations for those who are unable to wear face coverings will be addressed according to the students' needs. We'll be sure to place signage on district buses to communicate that face coverings should be worn. Again, these are not new things to us. These are all things we've been doing. We've established a protocol which will be communicated to parents prior to the start of the school year, outlining expectations of students wearing face coverings, and there will be soft shields surrounding bus drivers. We will disinfect our district buses and vans with electrostatic sprayers after morning runs and in the afternoon. To the greatest extent possible, additional cleaning will be done between runs. That's not always possible. Our vendors for our contracted buses will attest to and sign contracts that their cleaning procedures are in place and that drivers are wearing face coverings. Just a note, hand sanitizers and other chemicals cannot be stationed on buses because they're flammable. So we can't have those things on buses. We got some questions about that, so I wanted to be sure to make that clear. Air filters will be removed and cleaned every day on buses for students with special needs. Right now, there will be no field trips. Is that to say that there will be no field trips all year? Absolutely not. Right now, in the beginning of the school year, perhaps through the holiday break, there will be no field trips. Any transportation for any extracurricular activities, including athletics, marching band, academic teams, will be guided by our organizations, and we'll see how that goes. We will follow any guidelines from the NJSIAA on the athletic plan, which may be impacted dependent upon how many districts in the state are having issues related to COVID. There might not be enough players to play a game with. And student athletes, coaches, and drivers will be required to wear face coverings. I will tell you that at the scrimmage on Saturday, I was there, and the coaches were wearing the masks on the sidelines, the players were wearing masks on the sidelines. When they were actually playing, they weren't wearing the mask, but all the other times they were. In terms of cleaning, disinfection, and airflow, we do have established schedules for increased cleaning and disinfection, as well as targeted areas. And those targeted areas typically include frequently touched surfaces and objects. Restrooms may be closed throughout the day for 20 to 30 minutes for additional cleaning. We did this last year as well, but we had fewer kids in school. So it'll be on a rotation basis. That doesn't mean that all bathrooms will be closed at all times. It will be a rotation of bathrooms that may be closed. And as we've done in the past, disinfecting materials will be made available for utilization in classrooms. Hand sanitizing stations will be provided throughout the district, and there will be isolation in COVID areas in nurses' offices, which will be cleaned and sanitized after each use, as well as daily. Water fountains will be turned off, like the bubblers, but the water filling stations will be available. And kitchens obviously will be cleaned according to the usage and using the disinfecting plan as submitted by our food services company. Catholic Charities has developed before and after school program has developed a cleaning schedule for before and after school program, and they've agreed to follow our guidelines and protocols as well. We have invested in HVAC repairs and upgrades and exhaust fans throughout the district for improved ventilation. Some of that was attached to the referendum, some of it was additional. We will improve circulation of outdoor air, increase the delivery of clean air, and dilute potential contaminants through several strategies like bringing in as much outdoor air as possible, opening windows and doors as long as it's safe to do so, in school buses, in schools and on buses, utilize exhaust fans and ceiling fans when possible. So in terms of contact tracing, the CDC still identifies a close contact as someone who is within 6 feet of an infected person for a cumulative total of 15 minutes or more over 24 hours. However, they have an exception for K-12 classrooms. Now, they have to have this exception if they expect everybody to come back to school. And this is exactly taken verbatim from the CDC website. In the I'm going to read it. In the K-12 indoor classroom setting, the close contact definition excludes students who were within 3 to 6 feet of an infected student, if both the infected student and the exposed students correctly and consistently wore well-fitting masks the entire time. So if students are wearing masks properly, then contact tracing will take place 3 feet or less. Anything beyond 3 feet, contact tracing does not have to take place. So this is just a little summary. So 6 feet or 3 feet with masks for 15 minutes or more. We will utilize as much space as we're reasonably able to utilize. And again, the principals have been working on this with our buildings and grounds crew and our teachers for months now. Seating charts will be essential to assist in contact tracing. Seating charts on buses, seating charts at lunches. However the principal decides he, she, or they want to move forward with ensuring that when contact tracing has to occur, it will be done as efficiently as possible. And I've said it before, I'm going to continue to say this, parents must have alternate plans available at a moment's notice, especially for our students who can't stay home alone. We must have alternate plans available. So some quarantine reminders and guidelines, and this is going to be available on the website tomorrow. Also expect a school messenger from us within the next several days following tonight. So we are following the CDC guidelines, and we happen to be in the Central West region. Somerset County is in the Central West region, so we're looking at all of these things. For unvaccinated individuals, when we are in the low to moderate range, we are currently in the moderate range. If you're unvaccinated and you've been exposed, you must quarantine for 7 days with a negative test on day 5 or later, or 10 days of quarantine. If we're in the high range, then it's 10 to 14 days of quarantine for the unvaccinated individual. For the vaccinated individual, you do not need to quarantine after contact with someone who has COVID-19 unless you are symptomatic. Fully vaccinated people are encouraged to get tested 3 to 5 days after exposure, even if you don't have symptoms. There might be a vaccination testing mandate lying ahead. Now, this I did over the weekend, and this morning it changed. Honestly, I've been in meetings all day, back to back, so I didn't even have a chance to update this. But I did this over the weekend, and here we are. So we know that there's the possibility of vaccination and testing mandate for school personnel now. That just came out today. So at the time, this is something that the governor said he was working on, and we don't have any guidance yet or no guidelines about it, just that it's going to happen. I want to be very clear about this. There is no virtual option. If school is closed for whatever reason by a declaration of emergency by the governor's office or the Department of Ed, and schools are closed, districts are closed, we will shift to virtual option. But there is not a virtual option at this time for students who are quarantined, or for students whose parents choose not to send them to school. We are not mandating at this time that our teachers provide synchronous instruction. If a teacher feels that he, she, or they want a student to listen to them during the actual lesson, they'll invite the student to join. But at this time, we're not mandating that. That's not to say that teachers will not follow up with their students, especially if they know they're on quarantine. They will absolutely do that. That is not to say that as a parent or students themselves cannot reach out to teachers. They absolutely can do that, and the teachers will be responsive. That is where we are at the moment. Questions come in all the time. I try to highlight those things that people keep asking, and we will, I think there was a question about an FAQ. We are developing another FAQ with the questions that the board is getting and that we're getting, and this will be on the website, as I said, probably tomorrow, and be on the lookout for School Messenger. Also understand that as we get information, you will get information. It changes all the time, and we are all working around the clock to ensure that our students and staff come to school. We're all excited to be here, so come to school and have the safest environment that we can provide for everybody. Thank you, Mrs. Trujillo.